Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How's it going today?
Hey,
With me today,
Yeah.
I have Mina.
Hello, my huntings.
In the stead of 40, Filia, we have 242. Filia wasn't feeling well; she has a migraine,
Hi guys, it's me.
and it's me. It's me.
It's
It's
me.
I was going to say
242.
the woman that's always in the background's up front for once.
And then our special guest today is a very talented author, Ray Beaman.
hey, you guys. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
A
Not a
very
problem at all.
wonderful, talented author.
I should probably stop eating potato chips while we're talking.
It's probably a good idea.
Yeah, that might help.
Um,
It might help you talk a little bit better too.
So let's see who all's in the chat. I saw Raven earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here, but if he is, hey Raven, how you doing, buddy? We got the lovely Jelly Bean in the house. That is Ray's wife. In case
Yeah,
y'all weren't aware.
that's my wife.
We got CCG.
Hello. And we've
Um,
got him.
Hold on. We got CCG. If anybody did not realize, yesterday was her birthday. So wish her a happy birthday in the chat if you didn't get a chance to yesterday.
Happy belated birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy
And like-
birthday.
And like Mia said, we got the lovely Pam.
Should I do a happy birthday thing?
Uh,
Want me to? Don't want me
Um,
to? I'll do it later. I'll do it on voice.
and then we got Infinite Psychosis. He has decided to come out of his grave to join us today.
Just for today.
And we got Possessed Radio. Hey, what's going on, buddy?
Hi, Steven.
Oh, hey, Possessed Radio.
And,
Infinite Psychosis is getting a double me today, aren't you?
Hmm.
And that's all I'm gonna say.
double dose of Mina.
Oh god. Don't ever do that again.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
so
please
do that
don't.
again. But all right. Ray, why don't
Yeah.
you tell the lovely people? Oh, hey, AK's here. Hey, AK. Sorry, I have like an ooh shiny thing sometimes. But why don't you tell the lovely
try not to
people?
do that.
Yeah. So why don't you tell the lovely people who may not know who you are, what you do, and all that good jazz. And guys, while
Who
he's
you
doing
are.
that, please think about questions to ask Ray in the chat.
Yeah, of
Mhm.
course. Yeah. Well, I began writing horror probably about, or just over a year and a half ago now, actually. I was explaining to you before when we spoke. I was never really a big fan of horror when I was younger, but when I met my wife, she was big into it, and she showed me the error of my ways. So now I write short horror stories. I submit them to some very talented individuals who narrate them, and yeah, here we are.
I have to say, this is gonna sound weird, but I kind of am jealous that you can actually stay too short. Horror stories. I have a hard time writing short stories.
I do
I don't-
actually completely understand what you're saying. So let's go ahead.
It's one of those things where, how do I end this in a short time period?
I do on occasion have real trouble actually keeping it within certain limits, and I get to say the end of a project and I'm looking at my word count and I'm thinking, my god, I've gone so over, because I try to keep them within, say, 3,000 4,000 words, and I do understand they do drift sometimes, and it is difficult and can be quite hard to keep down the word count.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ray, I actually have a question for you. Before I ask my question, Steven, aka Possessed Radio, asked, "What's your favorite story you've written so far?"
The favourite story I've written so far, that's actually a very good question. If I had to pick off the top of my head, I would say so far a short story I've done called A Circle. I originally wrote it and I didn't quite know what it was going to be. So I literally just sat down at my keyboard, I typed, and just let whatever come out, come out. And when I got to the end of it, I was actually pretty proud of it. And I sent it to the always amazing the Raven Dreams. And when he narrated it, he took it up another level. And
Yes.
I literally just got to the point where this one session where I just wrote and I didn't think about anything actually becomes something so special, which I actually really, really am proud of. So I would have to say it was a circle.
It is a wonderful story. It is.
So my question was actually going to be something he kind of sort of touched on. So I know for me, my writing process is I have a very basic idea when I sit down at the computer and I just type away, and I literally let the story tell itself as I'm writing. So I don't have like a certain word count. So once I feel like it got to its natural ending, it was done. Do you write like that? Do you have like a very detailed plan for a story? Like, what's your writing process?
Uh, it's I suppose I could probably summarize it into 2 points. Firstly, it depends on the idea and the story. Sometimes I'll just sit down and I won't have an idea in my head and I'll just type and I'll see what comes out. Other times I have a sort of general idea and I've kind of got into the habit, as my family are big horror fans, sort of just running an idea past them and then we sit down, we talk about it, and all of a sudden this one idea that I had originally becomes something completely different. So essentially, we get kind of like a writer's room feel going on in our house. So we spend most Fridays, Saturday nights talking about horror, and yeah, before you know it, simple ideas become a story. So it does vary. It sometimes it's just write and see what happens, and other times it can be kind of a group process.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a.
That's interesting.
I like that.
I know. You said that you weren't a horror fan, but your wife was.
Yes.
When you got involved with her and she showed you the error of her ways.
She did
Um,
indeed.
it's interesting to hear that you bring your ideas to her and the rest of the family and let them grow in that way. That's cool.
Yeah.
What type of horror affects you the worst?
Do you mean what sort of stays with me or what horror I resonate towards?
What both actually.
Well, I think beginning with what resonates with me, we discussed previously, it's usually psychological horror. So I'm a firm believer that the biggest thing that you ever fear in your life is the thing that you can't see. Once you see that thing, it kind of robs the mystery and therefore robs the horror. So I'm drawn towards horror that, to lack of a better word, it has you thinking. It's more cerebral.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the horror that resonates with me. In regards to what stays with me, I don't want to say visceral because most horror is visceral, but yeah, some visual horror can stay with me.
Okay.
So
So it's like my scariest, as far as I'm concerned, horror movie is Rosemary's Baby. And it is a psychological. It's very psychological to where at some points you don't even realize what's going on.
Yeah.
And that is, in my book, more scary than actually seeing somebody getting slashed. You know?
Do you know what? I thoroughly agree. I think there's actually, going back to what you're saying, which horror stays with me. There was one film that I saw. It was Hereditary. That
Oh, yeah.
literally, that whole film, every single scene was just depressing. It was depressing to watch. It was depressing to look at, but I could not look away from it. So that film really did stick with me.
It's like the deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Uh,
But-
I have a question. It's very off topic, but your Jelly Bean mentioned that you guys live in a haunted house. You got any fun stories from that?
ooh.
I wondered whether she would mention that. uh, there has been stories that I've not been privy to, and there has been ones which I have been. I did write a short story when I first started writing, actually, and submitting stories to people. I wrote it for Mortis Media. And I sent it over to him, and he read that.
That's
Yeah,
really
but
cool.
essentially, I used to have quite a lot of trouble sleeping in this house to begin with, and I'd done some very strange things. So stuff that I didn't do before I moved in, and I subsequently haven't done since then. For instance, there was one time that my wife woke up in the middle of the night. She found me just staring blankly into the fridge, which was obviously an experience. But yeah, so I had a lot of nighttime related incidences that I never had before and I never had after. So I don't know whether that was the house affecting me, but yeah, it definitely happened.
That is crazy. I
Yeah.
told Jelly Bean
Wow.
I have so many stories because I live in a house literally that's like 9 miles away from Gettysburg. I have, in fact, there was a battle fought on like a small skirmish fought on my property. So I've seen full-bodied apparitions of Confederate and Union soldiers. I've
No
had to
way.
go. I had something whisper in my ear, and I turned around and saw a black shadow, and I just noped the fuck out of there. Like right up my car, and then in fact, Mia saw this. I was just sitting on the computer with my camera on, talking on Discord, and something just grabs me by the back of my shirt and pulled me backwards.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I have fun stories
And
about that.
yeah, we saw that on Discord.
Bloody hell.
And
When I saw that, I had to ask the question.
My
I mean,
my childhood home was haunted too. So
oh, wow. I didn't grow up in a haunted house, but I'm just gonna say I had experiences in the house that I grew up in. All of them.
But Cece asked another interesting question, and I really like this question. She asked, "Is there any story you have written that you would like to see animated?"
Oh, that's a very good
Ooh.
question. If I had to pick off the top of my head, I'd say the Kara series I wrote.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think there's enough material there and enough things that could be easily translated into animation. I think Kara would be the one.
That would be a good one.
That would be. And do you find it easier to write a series type story,
Well,
or
it was actually quite interesting. Before Kara, I'd never wrote a series, and to be completely fair, I never thought Kara would be a series. I originally wrote that one for As the Raven Dreams, and people seemed to like it, so I wrote more. But I never really had a problem with writing a series. Yeah, I've never had a problem writing series. I actually quite prefer it sometimes. Going back to what you said before, it's quite hard to stay within a certain word count. So with a series, you can sort of let loose and know that there's more room, there's more paper to continue the story on. So yeah, so sometimes I prefer writing a series.
you just brought up a question. And I know most of us do different forms, but do you write pen and paper? Or do you write digital, or do you do both?
I have on occasion wrote pen and paper, but it's never more than just recording ideas and stuff that comes to me. The bulk of my writing is done digital, and it's done through Scrivener.
Yes! Yes! I use that too. Oh, I love it. I love
It's-
it.
Jones,
Oh,
it has
Good.
completely just changed the way I write. It literally
Yes.
is built for writers.
It is, and I'm actually just starting to use the character functions, because my characters usually grow as I'm writing. As I get more of a feel for them, I can write more about them, and so I've never really, outlined. Well, they're blonde, they're this age, they're da 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 da. I'm writing a story right now that I had to actually give a name and age to and relationship between the main characters at the beginning. And so that gave me the opportunity to build this list of characters that Scrivener allows you to do.
It does, yeah.
That's really cool. Mia or Ray, drop me that link so I can check it out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It's literature and latte.
But all I know is I have to write digital because if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to read what I wrote.
I'm not gonna go there with
My
you.
handwriting is atrocious.
I'm not gonna go there with you.
Because you know it's atrocious.
I've worked very hard to get my handwriting to a legible way.
I have had, since I got sick, I have noticed that my handwriting has gotten much worse. But my handwriting has always been so small that I was one of the only people who could read it. So, I write small. I just one of those things. Do you use Scrabble too? Ray?
Sorry?
You use Scrabble too?
Scrabble?
Scrabble. It's their other product, or Scapple, not Scrabble.
No,
Scapple.
I've never heard of it.
I've used it to, I've got a story that has a very complicated city setup, because a lot of the characters in the city are related. And I used it to, it's actually more of a brainstorming tool.
Right.
And I've used it to say, okay, this person's related to this person who married this person whose children are these, and da 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 da. But you can take one idea and kind of do what you said you do with your family, except you do it almost like a digital
yeah.
board, where you're you know how you see crime scenes, or the picture of this is the victim and that this is what we've got evidence and blah 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 blah, and they link it all together. You can actually do that digitally with this.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat little tool. I'm again just learning to play with it myself.
Also, in Pennsylvania, Scrapple is also a food, and I would just like to say it's delicious. But so CCG asked another question. She said, "Is there a well-known author that you may know of that you would like to work with?"
A well-known author. To be completely fair, I'll go back to probably a book I read when I was younger, by Bret Easton Ellis. I can't never remember his name. It was American Psycho. It was so disturbing, and it was so, yeah, it was just so visceral and disturbing that it really stuck with me. And I would be really, really, really happy if I could ever have the chance to work with someone like that. I don't know whether the gentleman's still alive now, but yeah, yeah, that stuck with me.
Yeah, I can see that. I
Yeah,
think it's interesting how we see the books brought to screen, and I think narrations are more of a pure translation to media for
Yes.
stories.
Yeah.
I
But with, for instance, with American Psycho, the book was so much worse than the film, if that could be possible. Yeah. So that was
Yeah.
a story that really hit and stayed with me.
And if you've seen the film,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
read the book.
You know, no, I've seen the film and I've read the book. Christian Bale was absolutely amazing in the film, but in my opinion, the book was better.
And apparently the author is still alive.
And
Oh, he's still alive.
I looked it up real
Yay.
quick.
Isn't that how it always works? The book is always like 10 times better.
The reason
Yeah.
is you can go as long as you want with a book. You can't do that with a movie.
You know,
Definitely.
yeah, you can get into way more detail with a book than you can with a movie.
there's some books that translate well to movies, but I also think that there are some books that would translate even better if you made it into a TV series.
Yes, there are some books.
Yeah,
that can be
definitely,
TV
yeah.
series.
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently
And-
Raven asked a question that we missed.
Sorry.
Are there some tropes in writing horror that you genuinely like and dislike?
Sorry, I missed the question.
What are some tropes in writing horror and in horror that and writing and in horror that you genuinely like and dislike?
I mean, like, I don't know if we could consider it a trope, but at this point it must be. Jump scares. When I'm watching a film with jump scares, don't get me wrong, they're good fun. They get your heart racing. But to a certain degree, I find that some horror just uses them kind of as a crutch to give a kind of a cheap thrill, a cheap couple of seconds of, oh my god, like what happens? And I think it's, to a certain degree, like I said, lazy horror. I enjoy them sometimes. It depends the kind of mood I'm in. But it's not something that I genuinely would sort of gravitate towards. But tropes for horror that I do like... Oh, that's a good one. I suppose it would probably go back to what I was saying before about psychological horror, specifically the untrustworthy narrator. I really love the fact that when most people read a book or they watch a film, we see the story from the point of view of one person, and we have to believe that what they're telling us or what they're showing us is genuine. It's not until the end when we get to the end of the story and we see that maybe things were different and we were only going through their perspective. I think when that's done well, that is amazing. So that'd probably be one trope that I really quite like.
I quite
Nice.
agree, actually.
Yeah.
I really love the untrustworthy narrator. It's one of my favorite things. Because I find when I'm watching something or reading something, I'm trusting the narrator because they're bringing me into their world. And then when they're not the one to be trustworthy, you're like, what was actually going on?
And that's the thing, I think what quite a lot of, if we're specifically talking about movies, I think what quite a lot of moviegoers take for granted is what they're seeing is true. And when you sort of play with the untrustworthy narrator, you break the fourth wall, and all of a sudden it's, wow, what I've been watching for the past hour and a half, that was just in a character's mind. None of that actually happens. And when it's done well, it can be really sort of mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I too hate jump scares, but
Yes.
there are just sometimes jump scares. They're like, if you use them properly, they're amazing at the same time.
Yeah. As I said, I think it sort of just comes down to the mood I'm in. If you get a good jump scare movie, it's great, but you'll find that it's a commonly used tool for most horror films just to be called horror films.
And
Yes.
Cerebral horror, in my opinion, is so much more superior.
Like in the like for example in the Conjuring and Annabelle movies, like you turn around and there's that freaking spirit right in front of you, and you just like you jump and then it's gone. Like that jump, that like you use that jump scale properly, it's amazing. But then you got other movies that they do a jump scare. It's like,
Yeah.
You just get a jump scare for the sake of jump scares. Go away.
Yes, that's my problem with jump scares. It's too easy to do them, so they do them.
Yeah.
But they are something that is a really good thing for your arsenal, but it should not be something that you just use all the time.
With jump scares, less is more.
Yes, use sparingly. Yeah.
Sorry,
Con.
this is going to sound weird. It's going to sound really weird, but it's like sex. It doesn't belong there unless it works. Unless it progresses the story in some way, don't use it.
I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. It's unless it's like anything really. It could be any sort of facet of a story. If it's not driving the plot forward, it's useless.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for writers, that's the important thing: is you've got to get that. You've got to move the story. You can't have it stagnate somewhere. And I feel sometimes that I'm reading this one story.
Yeah.
And she gets stuck in her head. Character gets stuck in her head. And I'm like 37 chapters in, and I'm sitting here going, sometimes you just can use plain words to say things.
Yeah.
You don't have to use the most complicated terms.
Yeah.
So,
CCG and Raven had questions. Raven's question made me laugh, so I'm going to ask that one first. So, Ray, why do I love you so much?
That is the question. That's a question and a half.
Raven's asking the hard-hitting questions over here.
Yeah. I'm actually speechless.
But so CCG had a really good question though. So if you were to make a time capsule to bury for the future, which of your writings would you place within, or would you write something new?
Oh, that's a good question. I would probably have to say I'd write something new. Not to say that I'm not proud of everything that I've wrote so far. Some bits I'm proud of more than others, but I'm constantly my own worst self-critic. I look at stuff after I've read it and I think, okay, cool, that's fine. I'll send it over to someone. But then, like, say a week or two later, maybe a month, I reread it and I think, this could have been done better. This could have been done differently. This character didn't say enough. This character said too much. So, I think I'm always trying to do one better, and I would have to say it would have to be something new, because I don't think, to me personally, my stuff ages with time. Obviously, that's just my opinion, but I always want to do something different and something new.
So,
I remember reading when I was younger and just actually getting a handle on writing. Don't date your writing. And what I mean by that is don't use pop culture in your writing. And I've tried to keep to that, but there's sometimes it's like it actually helps because you're able to give an idea to your reader, even if it's something that's ancient,
Oh, I think for that question, for the time capsule, I would put 3 different pieces in there. I would put my very first story I've ever wrote. I would put something in between my lifetime as a writer, and then I would write something new towards the end of my lifetime. That way, like, somebody who's reading my stuff could see, like, the progression and how I've, like, advanced.
That is actually a very good answer.
He had more time to think about
the
it.
other thing is,
No, actually, I was gonna say it right after Ray finished, but then Mia said something, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna wait for a long conversation.
and you talked about you go back and you read it, and you're like, how can I do this better? Do you ever actually rewrite them to write them better, or do you just leave them alone?
I've never rewrote anything that I've previously written. I am critical of what I write, but I'm a firm believer that stories are kind of, for instance, let's say like tattoos. They're representative of a period in your life, who you were, what you were thinking, and what you wanted to say. So sometimes I do look back at them and I think I could have done them better, but that wasn't me at the time. So I definitely don't rewrite anything I previously wrote.
I get that.
CCG with another hard-hitting question. If you only had 5 minutes to live, what would you write for your last words?
Wow.
Shit, I'm out.
I have no answer for this one.
It would probably be someone please help me.
Right? No, seriously, my last words would be, fuck this shit, I'm out.
Mine would be goddamn dog, goddamn stairs. Because I'm pretty sure that's how I'm gonna go. I'm gonna die because my dog tripped me down some goddamn stairs.
Like,
You've said that
way.
before.
It's always my answer. I lived in the house once a year. I fell down those stairs. But in my defense, the stairs were painted with wall paint. They were slippery.
What?
I don't live in that house anymore. But I fell down once a year. And one of the times was because my dog came up behind me and pushed me down. So
But you actually fell down the stairs?
yeah, once a time. For the
Oh, wow.
4 years we lived there, the last year we lived there, I didn't fall down, but the year before that, I fell down 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So,
You ever fallen up the stairs?
Yes, I have fallen
So-
upstairs.
Fun story. I was in high school and I woke up and I stood up and my lower back just decided to spasm and I was in agonizing pain. And I literally army crawled down the stairs. Like I was on my stomach using my arms as like to navigate. My mom was like, "How the hell did you get down here?" I'm like, "It was very carefully."
Very, very carefully and very slowly.
Mother, you don't know what I just went through.
I'll tell you what, have you guys ever
Oh,
done
my
the one?
goodness.
Have you guys ever done the one when you're going up the stairs and you go to step on that extra step that doesn't exist?
Yes.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
when you go
And
down
also-
the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also
Yes.
I've done it going down the stairs too.
My
And then you
least
almost fall on your face.
well, my least favorite is when you think you're down the stairs and you still have one step.
Oh god.
I have fallen down I've tripped a couple times doing that. Yeah. Ugh.
Okay.
Stairs.
So
My enemy.
So true story. I grew up. My first house was a house with stairs, 2 sets of stairs actually. I broke my front 2 teeth when I was teething,
Oh,
falling
wow.
down the stairs. My mom said it was the easiest teething that she had ever had to put up with us because my tooth broke through the gum because I fell down the stairs and hit the kitchen floor.
Oh,
wow.
So yeah, we all do it.
Yes, stairs. Best, worst invention ever.
If you were to write, if you were to include one chapter of your life into a story, what would the chapter be and why? Dang it, CC.
Very
Got the
good question.
Got the good question.
If I had to be honest, and I'm probably going to sound completely sappy, it would be the chapter of my life that I've spent with my wife. It has literally been the most memorable. It has been the most happiest I've ever had in my entire existence, and it is something which I always want to remember. So it would be the chapter of my life with my wife.
Oh.
Okay, Jellybean, you definitely have got a winner here.
I don't-
Yes.
Just I knew that already, but I'm just reiterating that.
Right. I don't want to think this is me being bad, me being rude. The second you said that, I had Supernatural flash to my head, and I had Bobby Singer go, "Are we done talking about our feelings? Let's get out of this room before we grow lady parts."
Oh my god.
Jelly bean. Aw.
Sorry, man. My brain lives on Supernatural quotes, and I don't ever get to use that one.
Yeah, and me and 42 are sitting here going, "Oh, that's so sweet and wonderful," and then
Are we done feeling our feelings? Let's get out of here before we grow lady
Peter's
parts.
over there with,
with the supernatural quotes.
oh,
If you know me for any length of time, you know I have a never-ending list of Supernatural quotes that I just know off the top of my head.
That's the thing. You need to have those quotes on a retainer. You need to be able to pull them out whenever you need to.
but the bad thing is you can't use them when you're writing.
No.
I can use some of them. Like there's one of my favorite ones is he's like, "Dude, don't quote me to me." Like,
Yeah.
one of my favorite lines that he ever said that. Oh, and then there's the time where they're both not corporeal anymore, and Steen's just sticking his hand in Sam, and Sam just goes, "Dude, get out of me." Like,
Oh my goodness.
sorry, I have a love for Supernatural that exceeds
know you
probably any normal amount of love that somebody should have for a television show.
Well, I mean, the guy who played Dean is going to be in the next season of the. Oh, what's the English? The Boys.
The Boys.
Yeah.
And he's like a dark Captain America, which is gonna be freaking amazing.
Wow, a
Which
dark
is
Captain
kind
America.
of amazing because he was one of the ones that they had listed as Captain America when they were getting ready to make the movie. So it's kind of interesting that they chose him for that.
Have any of you seen The House of Wax, the remake?
Yes.
Yes.
He's in it.
Best scene in that movie.
He's
Best scene in
in.
that movie is Paris Hilton getting it right through the head. I mean, what?
Well, he's in it, and he plays a coward. I'm just like, Dean would just kill these people, and it's all before that. But it was just so hard to watch Dean Winchester run away in fear, and I'm like, Dean, just deal with it.
Turn around. Just turn around and gank that one.
Yeah, just deal with it.
So did you guys know that he was in Did you know Jensen Ackles was in Days of Our Lives, or it was one of the freaking I'm just like, no, he can't be. He's too cool for that.
You do what you gotta do when you're an actor.
There are a lot of actors and actresses that got started in that because of the fact that it's a good starting place.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you wrote a
What was it? Was it Matthew McConaughey that was in all those freaking rom-coms before you got some serious roles?
Well, and I mean, it's not just actors. I mean, Rick Springfield was on General Hospital before anybody knew he was a singer. He was playing a doctor, Dr. Noah Drake. Scott Bowie. Scott Bowie, that's not right.
Can I actually say Matthew McConaughey, absolutely amazing in Interstellar. Absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. He was really good.
Also, he was absolutely freaking amazing in The Dark Tower.
Yeah.
I've not actually seen that.
God, him playing a villain was on the things that I wanted to see him do most, and God, did he just drive that role home.
What's that one called? The Dark Tower?
Yeah, The Dark Tower. It's a movie based off one of Stephen King's books.
Series.
Oh, right, okay.
It's based off a series.
Yeah, it's a series.
My husband loves the Dark Tower series, and I could go in on as much as I know, which is probably more than I should for a book I haven't read.
CCG again with the hard-hitting questions, and yes, Possessed, you need to stop healthcare and become a soap opera. Because
Actor.
you've got the looks for it, dude.
Hey, PR. You do that. I'll be not only your manager, but I'll be your security detail. You know, you'll be safe in my hands.
Yeah.
I'm almost worried
It's
about
gonna
you.
take all the women into the other room, and never mind. CC's you with a hard hitting. If you wrote a story casting your wife as a character, would she have a storybook ending or a tragic ending? We've already got her answer. What's your answer?
100% storybook. 100% storybook. There is no way that I could ever write about my wife if she didn't end a story being happy.
See, I
So,
could kill off my husband.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. It's I never thought I'd have a connection with someone the way I do with her, and to even just imagine her not being happy or writing a story when she's not happy, that is unfeasible to me. So 100% storybook ending.
Aww.
Oh,
You
she said
s-
knowing her, it would be a tragic ending. But I think it's more wonderful that you can't see her not being happy.
She said a tragic ending.
yeah, she did.
Yeah.
You see, the funny thing is, I would totally be able to see my husband having a tragic ending, only because I know how much of a moron he is and would get himself into stupid stuff that he couldn't get himself out of. So,
He's the one that says, "Oh, in the haunted house, why don't we separate and look around?" Right?
no, he would be, let's stay together, but he would also go and try to beat up the ghost that killed 5 people. So, you know.
So
there's that.
he would be the character in Bard's Exorcist, where he goes and beats the crap out of the ghost because that's how he rolls.
Yeah. Except it would be with a sword.
So I would either
Oh my
be
goodness.
I would either be the character in that would die first, or I would be the character depending on how my character is written. I'd either be the character that dies first because I just go in there guns blazing trying to kill whatever it is, or I'd be the asshole that would survive because I would just go, no, you know what? I can't live through this. I'm out. You guys can come with me, but I'm taking the only functioning vehicle and I'm going with or without you. So you get 5 seconds to choose.
And no vehicles are functioning.
I'll make it function. Trust me.
I've been watching way
And,
too much
we've been-
JoJo.
Yeah, really.
Just
We've
punch
been
it
through,
and fix it.
patience.
Hello,
What it?
patience.
Yeah, hey,
So we have 2 wonderful spouses in here of our Raven and Ray Beaman.
Is Raven here today then?
yes,
Well,
Raven.
Raven-
Well, he's in the
Raven
chat.
Yes, Raven.
Oh,
is
right,
in the chat
okay.
Today.
Let's actually get the chat
So-
open.
So,
Patience.
Yes.
Ray,
For you.
He's been saying wonderful things about you in the chat, so.
yes, how much he loves you, because that's how he rolls.
Yeah.
So Ray, how do you get past writer's block?
These are very good questions tonight, actually. I usually only ever find that I have writer's block if I've had a late night or a few too many drinks the night previous. So yeah, sometimes I'd sit down after these terrible nights, try to write, and I just don't have it. It's in my head. I want to do it, but the energy's just not there. So it's one of those things that if you've got it and you've got the idea and you want to put it out there, if it's not working, just take a step away, give yourself some time, let the idea develop, and then come back to the keyboard when you're primed and you're ready to go. So I think that's the best way I'm for avoid any trouble writing. It's just if you have one day when it's not working, just forget it. You're not going to be writing that day.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always tomorrow.
So I have another question after I do this because I almost choked on a chip out of excitement. Vidith! Vidith is in the house. And it's actually cosmic.
Give us
Wow.
And now I forgot my other question. I know I was asked about writer's block. But
If you
Oh,
sit down,
good, Mia. But I remembered the question.
if and I don't know how you write, so I know I do this, and I know PA does this. You have to put it down for a while, whether it's 15 minutes, whether it's a day, whatever. You have to put down what you're writing because something comes up, something interrupts you.
Yeah.
You come back to it and you read what you were last writing, and you're going, "Where was I going with this?" Does that happen? And what do you do to get around it?
I've never experienced that. When I write, the best way I describe it is I'm kind of playing a movie scene in my head. So essentially, if I have to get up and I have to stop, I kind of hit like an imaginary sort of pause button in my head. When I come back, I press play and pretty much just carry on. But the one thing I definitely don't do is just sort of read back over what I just wrote, because, as I said to you earlier, I'm quite self-critical of myself, and if I kept looking backwards, I would never go forwards.
See, I don't have that problem where I don't remember where I was going with it. But it actually leads into Mia's problem. My problem is I'll get so far into a story, and I'll stop for a day or two because I had, life got busy, and I'll go back to it, and I just have no motivation to finish it because I read what I had, and I'm like, this is so good. I don't want to ruin this.
Yeah.
Have you ever just been nervous about finishing a story because you didn't want to ruin the ending?
I literally have had it once. After I wrote my first book, I wanted to jump very quickly into writing my second book, and I plotted out an idea, literally had all the characters down to a T, started writing it, then something happened. I can't actually recall what stopped me from writing, but I didn't go back to it for at least a month, and when I eventually did go back to it, I couldn't bring myself to finish it. And I'd literally wrote, I think, about 12 chapters, and I made the decision just to give up on it. So, yeah, that's the only time it's ever really happened to me.
It happens to me all the time. Like, I get anxiety about finishing it, especially always my short stories, because I love, like, okay, for example, the last story that I had out, Ray watched it, and Raven was in it, Passing the Mantle. Very different from anything I've ever written, but up to a certain point, I got to this point where this story was just straight up amazing, and I'm like, I don't want to finish this because I don't know if I can do the ending justice. And then a stroke of inspiration, I stopped writing on it for like 2 weeks because I had nothing, and then a stroke of inspiration hit me, and I finished it in like 20 minutes, and the freaking story's probably the best thing I've ever written.
Do you know what's so satisfying when you feel like that? When you hit the final couple of keys and you hit your full stop and you're like, yep, I've done it. It's over. I've done it.
That's the story.
Okay,
Yeah.
a couple questions that have come up in chat. First of all, I agree, Sater, but I want to ask, we know it's Australian, but where in Australia? Your accent, I got into this discussion with somebody the other night. Australian accents depend on the region, the area that they're in. So yours is from
my Australian accent.
He's British.
Yeah, my Australian accent's from England.
Oh, England. There
England.
you go.
So
Well,
his very Australian
It's not
accent's
called-
British.
It's not called me.
But do you know what? I found quite a lot of times in the past, I do get mistaken for being Australian. It does happen, especially when I'm abroad in another country.
Uh-huh.
Now that I'm listening for it, I can see how people can mistake it. But Vidith asked a question, and I giggled at this. May I request that he says literally again?
Literally.
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 they're like fangirling over your accent currently right now.
Yes,
Very
they are.
much.
random curious question: who is your favorite classic author, like Lovecraft, Tolkien, Lewis,
Believe
Dickens?
believe it or not, I've never actually read any Lovecraft. Uh, I'm very familiar with his works and his style, but I've never actually had the. Well, it's a bit of a get out, so I've never had the opportunity because, of course, I've had the opportunity, but I've never actually read any of his stuff. The other person mentioned Tolkien. Yeah, I quite enjoyed Lord of the Rings. I think the books, yet again, were a lot better than the films. So, if I was pushed into an answer, I would
Mhm.
say Tolkien.
Thank you, Ray. You didn't break my heart.
There's
We've had people on here who've never read Lord of the Rings, and I was like,
okay.
Really?
Okay,
my heart is
I've
shattered.
never read Lord of the Rings, but I have read The Hobbit. So
I haven't read The Hobbit. I haven't had the chance to do that.
Hobbit's really good.
My godmother gave me The Hobbit when I was 10 years old. So, I started early. and Seder is now squeeing over your accent. Yes.
did we ask CCG's last question about the longest story?
No.
I don't believe we have.
So CCG asked, what is the longest story you've written, and who or what inspired you to write it?
That's a good question. Not including series, I think off the top of my head, the longest story I've written, short story, is actually a story which is sitting with Possessed Radio at the moment. It's called From Dirt. In regards to inspiration, it was another one of those stories where I just kind of sat down one night and I was like, I'm going to write a story. Don't know what it's going to be about. I'm just going to type and see what happens. And over 2 sessions, I think it came out at about 4,000 odd words, which is long for my short stories.
Wow.
So yeah, definitely, I think
Mm.
that one was probably my longest short story I've wrote.
Follow up to that.
Possessed Radio says I'm wrapping it up today.
Oh, nice one.
Nice. It's
So-
so good.
So Ray, follow up to that question.
Yep.
God dang it. What was the question again?
I don't know. I'm not in your
What
brain.
was the question that
The
CC asked?
longest.
Oh, song of the story. Oh
the
yes.
longest.
Okay. So see, that was all I needed to jog my memory. When you sit down to write, do you find that if you have like a very simplistic idea, that it turns out better, or the more complex ideas that turns out better? Because I've figured out personally, I've wrote a story about sticks and stones, will break my bones, and that story came out amazing. I just wrote a story about Ring Around the Rosie, and that story came out amazing. And like,
Yeah,
it seems like the
I
more
agree.
simplistic ideas that I have turn out better. And I was wondering if that's the same for you, or if you do better with like more complex ideas.
I find that most of my simplistic ideas inevitably become complex ideas. So it's kind of, yeah. So simplistic, I would find works better for me because it allows the seed to sort of grow, spread, and as you're writing, sometimes I'm even surprised about where the story takes me. And there's points where I've got to say three quarters of the story through, and the ending I didn't even quite know until I got there. So I find simplistic definitely works better. With complex, I have a tendency to overthink things. I want to make timelines. I want to chart the lives of every character that's going to be included. I want to know exactly what's going to happen in each chapter. And I'd done that once when I originally wrote my novel, and it's something I don't ever want to go back to doing again. So to answer your question, I believe simplicity is the key with me.
Yeah, I agree with it. It gives you more of a room to expand. If you come up with like an idea where you have like a set this, and this, you don't really get that creative leeway as much. But if you're like, I'm gonna write a story about Ring Around the Rosie, and then you go, and then as you're writing it, you develop the plot as you go, and you know, you can just roll with the punches. Like literally, whenever I sit down to write Ring Around the Rosie, I'm like, I'm writing a story about Ring Around the Rosie that involves ghost children. That was literally the idea.
Yeah. I, fi- I, I find as well, like, it takes away the stress of writing, and I don't know if it's just me, but the added pressure that you put upon yourself. If you've just got that one idea and you just sit down and you write it, it is more fun than it is stressful, and it should always be fun.
Yes. Yeah, I like going with the concept of what if. That's always how I start a book or start a story. Like, what if a house was a killer?
I like that. But just so you know, everybody knows, Ray has read Ring Around the Roses. I sent it to him in its compliant and it's full. I sent it to him in its entirety.
You're gonna have to say that again.
Yeah, so I missed that last part.
My internet keeps dipping. But I said that just so you guys know that Ray has actually read Ring Around the Rosie in its entirety. I sent it over to him to see what he thought.
Yeah, really enjoyed it as well.
Which I take as high praise.
You said and this goes back to where you said when you're writing, it's like watching a movie.
Yeah.
And I have that to an extent. Do you ever have like the characters like sitting over your shoulder while you're watching and writing and saying, "Wait a minute, you wrote that wrong"?
Yeah, on occasion, yes. There has been times where I've been writing a character, and I've written, say, a piece of dialogue. I've written a certain action that they're meant to take. Only upon re-looking at it, realizing that, wait, no, that doesn't fit them. That doesn't fit the story. That doesn't do them justice. And to a certain degree, as you said, it is kind of like the character speaking to you. I never found myself good at listening to the character. I mean, to go back to a bit of being sappy again, to talk about my wife, she was a very big help the first time I was writing my first book, because there was a strong-willed female character in there, and I didn't write her correctly, and she could have been a lot different without my wife's input. But since then, I have got quite good at noticing whenever I write something that just doesn't fit.
Yeah, I listened to the characters. I was writing a story called A Stranger's Call, and my main character was supposed to be this good guy who just loved his friends and everything, and then within 3 paragraphs he turned out to be a fucking asshole, and I'm like, what happened?
I remember you saying, yeah.
No! I'm like, well, I guess we're rolling with this character then.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's one of the best things about writing, surprising yourself.
Yeah.
When there's like a story, you forget. Sorry, go on. Yep.
Having the characters surprise you with what they're going to do.
Yes. That is actually put better.
That your wife, being a strong person, influenced your writing. I think, and I hear this more from male writers than female writers. I just putting that out there. I think spouses have a lot to do with how we see the characters that are like them or have characteristics like them. And then we turn around and we hear that Stephen King's wife actually saved some of his stories from the trash can.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about that. There was one story that he thought was just not very good. Was it Rosemary's Baby?
No, it was I want to say Carrie. It was either Carrie or Christine.
No, it was. I know you're correct. It was Carrie.
Oh wow.
And he thought it was crap and had no literary or otherwise redemption. She pulled it out the trash can and said, "No, this is really good. You need to publish it."
So,
What are some of your
Beamon.
favorite stories by other authors in the community that other authors in the community have written? Sorry.
Other stories that I've enjoyed. Of course, it might sound cliche to say, but every single person that I've come across in the community has been amazing, and every single story that I've ever heard from someone else has always been a breath of fresh air. To a certain degree, I view them as, like independent movies. You get more sort of edge, you get more outside thinking, and I think that's prevalent in every single story in the community I ever hear or see. But one of my big favourites, actually, of course, mentioning PA Nightmares stories, which I've read recently, would be a story which, as the Raven Dreams wrote, I cannot. It was called The Screaming. It was called Screaming. I
Scream.
really enjoyed that story. Really enjoyed
So
it.
good.
The way that he
Mm-hmm.
built tension, the way that I felt trapped listening to the story, the imagery, just everything about it, I really enjoyed, and I could not recommend that one enough.
What um just kind of leading on the same thing. What's your favorite or least favorite experience as an author in the horror community?
In the horror community, I would say, obviously starting with good experiences, just meeting everyone, uh, making connections, speaking to like-minded individuals, and everyone just seems to be so nice, just so approachable, so accommodating, and it's really refreshing, especially in the world which we now live in, just to find people that are there, willing to talk to you. They're nice people, they have the same views as you, and they'll give you the time of day. So that's definitely the best thing that I've enjoyed about writing in the horror community. Uh, in regards to the worst, I suppose it's a sort of a get out answer, but I've not had any bad experiences, none whatsoever.
Cool. That's wonderful to hear. Um, it's one of the things that we keep saying about the horror community is that it's a wonderful community. We have so many talented people,
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
and it's just amazing that you would think that the horror community would be the community that's the hardest on our members, but we're actually very loving to our members. So
It's actually quite ironic that a shared interest in the horrifying and the disturbing uh, could sit with so many nice people.
I think it has to do with a lot of us have been through some horrific situations, and you know, it we don't want to put other people through that. No, it's something we want to save people from those horrific situations. And Beautiful Nightmare just did one of your stories,
She did, yeah.
and she's captivated by your accent.
So Ray, whenever you're like they ask you about your your favorite like authors in the community, and you're like, speaking of PA Nightmare story, I'm like, if he mentions one of my stories, I might fangirl a little bit.
Well, that's the
Yeah,
thing,
I
my
don't
friend.
think that Ray listened to me, but
What were we gonna say, Ray?
And I was just about to say, my friend, like, from what I've read, from what you've sent me, I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, I love Raven's writing, and I don't want to say I use it as a benchmark to like rate my writing on, but I use it as a standard of which I look at his writing and I just think I pick things out of it and just try to improve my writing style to just like but little by little, just like because I've only been doing this for a few years, so I still consider myself relatively new to the writing, so I like looking at other authors' work and seeing where my weaker points are and trying to expand on them.
I'm in agreement. I
You
think that's one of the biggest and best things you can do in life is to be critical of yourself, acknowledge any area in which you're falling short, and learn from someone else. And once you take these good ideas from other people, you build them into your own repertoire and you change them, and it becomes a part of you. So I think that's a very good sort of point of view to have.
I agree. Before it goes away, is there a story you've written and that the end of writing it, its content may or may not leave you haunted today?
Is there anything that I've wrote that scared myself? Oh, that's a very good one. I don't think anything in my short stories. I think in the book I wrote, it did get quite dark, and it got dark very quickly. Because essentially, at points in the story, I had to write from the perspective of a serial killer.
Oof.
And I had to be quite descriptive in exactly how he was ending some unfortunate individual's life.
Mm.
So there was times when I finished writing a chapter and I look back and I was genuinely worried sometimes, I won't lie.
I also find when I'm writing
Yes.
stuff like that, it's like, where did this come out from in me? Should
Yes,
I be
yeah.
worried?
I especially had that when I was writing on Suzette's book. I was going through a very traumatic divorce, and there was a lot of times where I would kill my ex-husband, which was my soon-to-be ex at the time, in the story and then delete it because it was cathartic to me. It helped me deal with the feelings that I was having, but I didn't want it left in the story.
Well, that's the beauty of
Yeah,
writing. It can be used as an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we all need
Yeah,
an outlet.
it's always been a stress reliever for me.
Yeah.
So, Ray, do you get your ideas from any certain place? Do you just think them up? Do you take them from dreams?
I've never had an idea from a dream. I'm always envious of people that do, because that must be a very amazing dream. Most of the time, it just sort of comes to me. It always starts with a small idea, a plot device, a character, just a small hook. And when I write, it sort of builds around that. But going back to what I said earlier, I can't take all credit because, as I said, we do share every aspect of horror in this house. And anytime I've got an idea that I need help with, I do run it past my family, and they're always there to help. So pretty much it starts. Yeah. Pretty much it starts with a seed and it grows naturally.
My ideas, like 90% of them come from dreams.
Well, as I said earlier on, that must be some good dreams, mate.
Or bad ones.
I mean, yeah. So I've only had one dream, like where I've like that would make an interesting story, but I couldn't bring myself to write it because, much like you, when you said earlier, you couldn't kill your wife in a story. This dream involved my house turning into like a fun house. Both my nieces have been abducted, and one of them, and neither of them actually died, but the guy handed me like an old style like fashion pistol, said kill the younger one, which I think at that point was like 5, and I'll let the older one go. And I said no, but the gun went off, and I turned around, and there was that like cliche freaking horror movie baby doll. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
With like a bullet hole in its head, and I woke up. I didn't sleep well for 2 months, I think, because I was just worried I was gonna have that dream again. It like screwed me up.
I cannot even imagine. But to be fair, like I said, I'm always envious of people that do get ideas from dreams. I rarely dream. Usually, as soon as I go to sleep, I'm gone for the night.
I only remember like the really messed up dreams. I never remember like the pleasant dreams. I always remember the ones where just I get brutally murdered. I wake up and go, that might make for an interesting story later down the road.
It's like, for once, can I just remember the good dreams?
Can I
It's
remember
not so bad.
Remember the
It's
one
not-
where I cuddled that teddy bear for like 7 hours straight?
It's not so bad. Sometimes, but there's other times where like if I get dead in my dreams, I actually feel pain in my dreams as well. So I'm like, can we have the dreams where like some bad stuff's happening, but I'm like, in God mode where I'm just viewing this stuff happening to other people?
Yeah.
Can we not just insert myself in every dream?
That would be amazing.
See, I always
So,
dream from third person, but it is always me. It's weird.
So kind of like you're watching yourself.
Yeah.
So when we write in different points of view. Which, it's a two-part question. Which is the easiest point of view for you to write in? And which is the hardest of the 3 points of view? Or if you count inanimate objects, but first, second, and third.
To me, specifically with horror, I'd have to say the easiest point of view to write in is first person. Because I believe that it has more of a lasting impact than writing third person. Because in third person, you're talking about someone else. You're talking about events that are happening to different people. With first person, you put the reader directly into the action. It's kind of like the story is playing out to them and around them, and I find that is easier to write because during the whole process of writing, as I said, it's kind of like a movie in my head where I might be living the experiences that my characters are going through, and I translate that to the page, how I believe they'd feel, what they'd be thinking. So that would definitely be easiest, and obviously the hardest would be third person for the reasons I just said. But never wrote from a second perspective.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to write from a second perspective.
Second perspective is very hard to do. I can say that. It's not easy. I've been forced to do it on occasion, and it's not easy.
Have you got any examples
It's
of
not
writing
easy
in the
being
second
green.
perspective?
Well, actually, the inanimate object is one way of doing a second perspective. Like, imagine that you may have come in the room expecting this, but when you did enter, I was sitting there and you saw that I had done this.
Right. I understand that, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that is a harder, definitely
If you
harder.
could, yeah, because you're as the author, or as the narrator, you're trying to tell what the person is feeling and thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, CCG put it back in here. Good. If you could pick one horror narrator in the community to write a horror story about, who would it be and why? Oh, Jelly Bean, yeah, it probably would be.
CC with the hard-hitting questions again.
I
Who would I write about? That is a very good question, and that's actually one which has stumped me.
Oh, really?
Is there any kind of way that anyone can help me with this question?
Well, your wife says Raven, and Raven says I'd be curious to see what that story would be, honestly.
I suppose, yeah. I wouldn't say a specific person, but I suppose you could write a story about a narrator, someone who does narrate horror stories, and maybe to a certain degree the stories come to life for them. So it could really apply to any of the lovely people that I've met so far in the community. But yeah, I wouldn't mind writing a story about Raven.
I know that there is a story out there about a narrator. It's a creepypasta, but it's not about a specific narrator. It's just in general. It's like I was a horror narrator. I don't do it anymore, and this is why. I actually think that's the name of it. But it's just a verb. Oh, Raven.
I'm just a bird.
I'm only a bird, and I'm sitting here. Never mind. That falls apart at that point.
Just a bird doing burp things.
With a knack for it, he says.
Well, yeah, whatever.
With a knack for it.
When you hear different narrators do your stories, do you ever compare them to those voices in your head that you hear when you're writing?
I think it's natural to do that. I think when you have an idea and you've written a story and you become attached to it, you have a certain idea of who the characters are, what they sound like, how they act. So yeah, it is something that I have done in the past. But I have found that everyone that I've worked with so far in regards to narrators, they always bring their own spin to it. And I'm always blown away by how they add an extra dimension to the story, which I never even saw myself. To the point where sometimes I listen to my work being read, and I can't actually believe that it is something which I've wrote. It just seems like the narrator is adding their own personality to it, which is, of course, what they're meant to do, to the point where, as I said, there's a whole nother level to the story I didn't even know existed. And it always blows me away how talented these people are.
When you've had, and I know you've had different narrators do the same story. This is something that happens in our community because honestly, there's only so many stories. Do you find that each narrator brings a different spin to that same story? And do you find that some of them you don't like? Some of you like better?
To be fair, at the moment, I don't actually have any repeat narrations. Literally, yeah, I believe the bulk of my work has gone to As the Raven Dreams. I've obviously Beautiful Night done a great job recently with one of my stories. There was Skullface and soon Possessed Radio.
Skull for face.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Skullface.
Skull for face.
Yeah. and soon to be Possessed Radio. But every person which I work with is different, and every person I work with is an individual, and they bring something completely different to the story. And as I said before, I'm always blown away by what they bring to it, and I could not be more honoured just to be included.
That's wonderful. See, I have this fear of sending something to someone and being so critical of it that I can't enjoy what they do with it.
I completely understand what you're saying, but so far I must have been blessed because every single narrator that's taken a hand to my story, that it's just been amazing.
I'm excited for to read the one that we were talking about earlier, and for the one that you're writing for me as well, Ray. I'm really excited to see what you come up with.
I've got your name on.
Yes.
I've got your name there, and I will definitely be getting something together for you.
Yes, Raven is right. Voice acting is very tough, and some of us do enjoy it quite a bit. I've been doing more voice acting right now than I've been doing narrating because I'm having some issues with something that I narrated. But when you finish something, and this comes because your wife just said it. When you write something and you finished it and you read it out loud.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you find things that you feel like needed to be worded a different way?
I should have seen this coming with her being in the chat. Yeah, so essentially, once I finish a story, it always has. No, I have to read it out loud, and she's always been kind enough to listen to me read. The obvious answer to the question, if there was one thing that I would need to restructure, it would be how I read stories out loud. I'm definitely not a narrator, and I'm definitely not a voice actor. But yeah, I do catch certain things that I miss through editing by reading things out loud. There's certain sentences, there's certain structures that sound right in your head, and they sound right when you're reading them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not until you have another person listening to you say them that you realize how misplaced and how much they do not make sense. So yeah, there is countless things that have been caught through reading my stories out loud, which I never saw before. So it is a valuable part of the writing process, in my opinion.
I have made it a comment to several writers that are just starting out and telling them that the last thing you need to do if you do no other editing is to read it out loud, at least to yourself, if not to someone else.
Yeah.
Or at least in a position where you feel like you're reading to someone else. PA's caught me a couple of times going into Discord, jumping into a voice channel, one of his usually.
Yeah.
And reading a story out loud.
All right. I don't mean to cut in, but we're running low on time, and Ray does have a story for us to read, so we should probably get to that.
The one thing I would, just to get Raven's question asked, it's just Raven asks is how many parts of the series that I've been doing. Have you told me how many parts?
That's a very good question. The series which is currently sitting with as the Raven Dreams, I don't know if you guys listen to it. It's quite cryptic, and I've been pretty secret with the story itself, and I've gradually been releasing information with each new story. I don't know if anyone's already, but spoilers. What originally started out as standalone stories have steadily become interconnected, and the protagonist has started to realize that he has memories from the stories prior. So it's very interesting. I've been very cryptic, but to answer Raven's question, in my head there's a total of 5 parts, so at least 2 more to come.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't wait.
I just want that answered if we could.
Okay, we're waiting for you.
Oh, it's me to read. Okay. Right, this is going back to what I said before. I am not a narrator, but I'll give it my best shot. Right, yeah. So I wrote this morning real quickly for you guys. The story's called Remember Me. I glanced down at the piece of paper, pen tightly gripped in hand. I had already been staring at it for 10 minutes now. After much deliberation, I had finally settled upon 4 names. But then I had subsequently become stuck on the 5th. Why do I leave everything to the last minute? I had 2 options left, either Chris or Larry, and I had to make a choice as the party would be starting soon. Chris or Larry? List the pros and cons, I guess. Chris was a bit younger than me, I think 26. He worked within the same tiny and cramped office as I did, and he sat on the desk opposite. He was one of those people who never really knew when to shut up. Most days he would talk more than he worked, and his voice had an annoying habit of carrying, meaning that when he started, there was little that you could do in order to avoid his annoying and grinding tone. It was clear that he loved the sound of his own voice. I mean, how could he not? After all, All that he ever seemed to do was talk and talk and talk and talk. It was obvious that he thought of himself to be incredibly funny too. Unfortunately, though, it was not abundantly clear to him that nobody else shared in his opinion. He would tell ill-advised jokes, he was crass, he was rude, and ultimately, he was a bit of an idiot. But he was also generous. About a year ago, I was having some very dire financial difficulties. I had developed quite a severe addiction to gambling that quickly consumed my life. One bet became two, two bets became four, and before I knew it, I found myself a week away from payday, with no money and absolutely no food. Chris found out about this, and he had offered to buy me lunch every day until our salaries were paid, and of course, with little other option and zero remaining pride, I graciously accepted his offer. That whole week, I ate nothing but takeout sandwiches, but at least I actually got to eat. And then there was Larry. Larry was an old man, the type of which who never really knew when to slow down. He was a walking heart attack, a medical emergency in waiting, a powder keg of stress and anxiety bubbling dangerously, awaiting the fuse that would inevitably ignite his existence. He was all of these things, and he was also my boss. Pros and cons. Well, Larry could be condescending at times. He had a nasty habit of talking to the employees below him, as if they were his spoiled, rotten children, instead of human beings, just trying to earn a living. He would walk around the office on a Monday morning, and every now and again he would stop and survey us, briefly watching in order to ensure that we were indeed working. Of course we were, but that did little to stop his sideways comments. "Do you really think that task is a priority?" he would ask. "What an interesting way to waste company time," he would add. And then, of course, there was the always timeless and classic, "I think we should schedule you in for some training." It was clear that he thought age equated to expertise, and it was his tragic flaw, but in the same breath, he could also be incredibly sympathetic. The year that my wife left me, he brought me into his office for a quick chat. "You know, I've been through the same thing, Michael," he told me, his voice carrying a reassuring tone that seemed so odd as it came from his lips. "So I just wanted to let you know that if you ever want to talk, I'm here for you." "I'm here for you?" Admittedly, his sincerity had caught me off guard, as I was not used to this cold and commanding man being so caring. But with little else in the way of friends or companions to confide in, I decided to take him up on his offer. During that quick chat, the one which ended up lasting for over an hour, I cried, probably more so than I ever had throughout my short and pathetic life, until finally I was sent home for the day. Again, I looked down at the list. The choice is no easier. I had already selected 4, and I always knew that the 5th would be difficult. So far, I had included Brittany, David, Eddie, and Mark. Somewhere on this sheet, either Chris or Larry would eventually be included, and they would have to be included soon, as I had to start getting ready to leave. The thought of the impending party caused a slight distress to start building from within me. I was never what you would call a social butterfly, and this was glaringly obvious during all of my misplaced social encounters. Within a group, I was the quiet one, more comfortable blending into the background than assuming the role of the confident speaker. I would not guide the conversation, I would not crack jokes, and I would definitely not leave a memorable impression, or an ingrained recollection, or even a second thought for anyone who had the misfortune of speaking with me. People would rarely remember my name. Tonight, however, during this party, things would be different. My choices would matter. I knew that they would leave their desired mark. I knew that I had to be leaving soon, so once more I glanced down at the clean white sheet of paper that sat patiently waiting below me. It's now or never. Still unable to make a choice, I placed the pen against the sheet and allowed the responsibility to linger with my hand. Slowly, my fingers moved and the black ink solidified against the white, leaving me with the 5th name, crisp and clear. Ah, Larry it is. Smiling, I got up from the chair and moved to get dressed. It is almost time. After a few moments, I was prepared and ready to go. I moved quickly over to my bedside table and opened the drawer, removing the loaded pistol from within, and then I turned and made my way to leave. This is it. finally, after years of obscurity, after years of watching and waiting from the sidelines, after years of being forgotten, of misery and of pain, after all these years, and after tonight, everyone, without a shadow of a doubt, everyone will finally remember my name. And that was it.
Okay, Ray, it's been unanimously decided you need to start narrating.
I don't think so.
Oh no, it's unanimous. Raven, me, Big Daddy Stone said you have a great cadence. Yeah, we've all in agreement. You need to start narrating.
Thanks, I appreciate
We
that.
believe that you remind us of Alternative Night. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
But yes.
My favorite comment was from Raven. Says he's not a narrator, but then flows through the story with little to no effort.
Yeah.
Not a narrator could have fooled me. You have an amazing voice, and our reading is flawless. So when do you start narrating? Creepy clown girl.
Definitely not for a long time. But I appreciate the kind words.
Dude, I'd freaking listen to your stories. Like, I'd binge listen to your damn stories.
Cheers.
Well, Brian Faircloth, that's not his name that he uses on YouTube and Reddit, it starts with a V, and I'm not going to slaughter it because I'm not going to try to say it. He has started narrating his stories, and again, it's why did it take so long? You really, I think your wife is right. You're amazing.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I can't even read my own stories that flawlessly. And I know what the hell they say.
PA, we won't get in on that.
What's that? 42?
We won't get in on that. I wouldn't want to mention how much I stumble over my own gosh darn words.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think we all do.
It comes with the dyslexia and ADHD. My brain will process words faster than my mouth can speak them, and then also it likes to change letters around, and then I go, this says this. No, wait, nope, said that. Nope, I had it right the first time.
Yeah, I actually just had an author point out that I said, what was it? It was supposed to be walk, and I saw something else entirely. Never caught it the 3 or 4 times that I said it.
Or I'll do the simple. I'll be like reading words, and I'm like, and I'll say the right word, and I'm like, that looks wrong to me. So I'll copy and paste. I'll copy the word and paste it into Google and do the pronunciation, and it was right. And I'm like,
I think the word that, and I'm not excluding myself from this, folks. Okay, I think the word that a lot of folks have a hard time saying is cornucopia.
Cornucopia.
Or cornucopia.
Because when you look at it, I have heard narrators say that 14 ways to Sunday. Never right. And then somebody says it right, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know how to say it. And I'm sitting here. I know they can't hear me. And I'm like, you said it right, yes.
Well, to be fair, that's not a really used word. Like, I've never run across that word in any of the stories I've read so far.
Yeah, I was thinking that same.
Which is probably
I've
good.
Heard the cornucopia of horrors, a cornucopia of tools for murder or tools for torture. That's usually how I hear it. But it's usually something else, not cornucopia when it's said. You will never use cornucopia in your story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm making a note of cornucopia to avoid it.
Yes, please, narrators, stay away from that. Very terrible. Or, please, writers. Also, narrators, try to stay away from that word. I've noticed that a lot of narrators are also writers.
Like, please, narrators, stay away from that very awful word. And writers, please don't use that very awful word.
I will
If you do, you're just an asshole.
That would be awesome, Jelly Bean. So your wife is thinking about narrating.
Yes, she has decided to look into it, and I'm hoping it's going to be something that we can do together. But it's very much it's very much in its infancy at the moment. She did create some social media that is out there, but we haven't actually created any content yet. So it's very much her baby, but I'm obviously going to hopefully give her some stories.
Well, the secret is
screaming right now.
The secret is talk to Raven. He'll hook you up to a bunch of free stuff that you won't have to pay for. He'll tell you all this stuff. Audacity is going to be your best friend.
Audacity is going to be your best friend.
Audacity, yeah.
Pixabay.
Or GIMP.
Pixabay. Or
It
GIMP. And GIMP.
Depends which you would prefer. I personally like GIMP better. Pixel Bay too. Sorry, I was thinking Canvas. Canva. What PA uses.
Canva.
Yeah. I use Unsplash, and I like them a lot too.
I use Canva and I use GIMP. Should I say that? I'll say it. I just did a book cover with GIMP.
Oh.
And Pixabay. I got a picture, Pixabay, and I changed it using GIMP to have my name and the title of the book, and to change the colors to make them brighter. So, yeah. So you're writing a new story called Shipwreck, and your character is stranded on an island. Would your story be a love story, a horror story, or a comedy?
Definitely horror. Definitely horror. I mean, just the idea of being stranded on an island, being shipwrecked. You've already started. Yeah, you've started straight up with pure terror. And you know, I'm thinking, what's on that island?
Right. Mine would be a comedy horror, straight up.
Are there cryptids?
Anything. But I'm really enticed by the idea of comedy horror PA Nightmares.
Oh, he likes comedy horror.
Oh, you dude, I love comedy horror. I can send you a few series that Mr. Creepypasta has done that are just the funniest thing ever, but they're also straight horror, or they're also horror. But you listen to my stories, man, you'll start noticing a very reoccurring theme where there's like one or two lines in there that are just straight up for comedy relief.
And there's also major sarcasm.
Oh, there's always sarcasm.
Always.
You always got to have a bit of sarcasm.
I could teach a doctorate class in sarcasm. Like, I straight up could just teach anybody how to be a sarcastic asshat.
Yes, you would. And I'm not being mean by saying that.
I've also got told I need to write a book on, user's guide to how to become an asshole.
Now, see, I would take that as a mean thing. You're on the island. There's certain people you just need to be like that too.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I agree.
Most of them are entitled. I mean, what?
Most of them are named Karen.
Well, actually, I know, and I didn't realize this until this morning. Somebody sent me a link to an entitled person who went to court and tried to tell the judge what to do.
Oh my god.
And it brought up the thought of somebody that I know in real life who did the same thing, only when I started thinking about what she did, her name was Linda. And no, her name was Laura. excuse me, not Linda, Laura. And she is the first Karen I have actually run across as a real human being. And, you know, when you have the audacity to go and to a courtroom and tell a judge that they have to fine for you because of this, this, and this, and this, which is not part of the law.
Which also don't tell the judge the law.
Yeah.
You don't. You don't tell the judge the law to begin with. That's a very bad thing.
You don't walk into a courtroom and tell the person who's deciding your fate what to do. It's just a bad It's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's ending well for anyone.
That's like dying, going to heaven, and like looking at God and be like, I'm going in there, and he's like, no, you're not.
Yeah. Or just outright looking him in the eye and saying, "Is this your idea of heaven?"
Oh. I would like to speak to your manager, please. Sorry, I had to.
I would love that one.
Yeah,
I would like to speak to your manager. Friggin' trapdoor. He's in hell. I'm the manager. How may I help you?
Can you imagine Lucifer as the manager?
Dude,
Right?
again,
Where's
going back
Wayman?
to Supernatural. Dude, going back to Supernatural, 'cause like, you know, you know the hell, like the hell with the hellfire and brimstone. I think Crowley's hell would be more torturous because it's just you're waiting in a line, and you get to the front of the line, and you're just back at the end of the line. I'd be like, that would be the worst torment ever.
Yeah, that was his hell. That was...
Big circle, yeah.
No. I don't do lines. If I see a line, I walked away.
Yeah, but there are some lines you can't walk away from.
Yeah, there's some I have. Like recently, I went to a line, but I had to get into it. But most of the time, I just have the choice to walk away. I'm just like, nope. Whatever is on the other side of that line is not worth this wait.
I
When
hate
I
it when
was
you-
in college, I had to stand in line to get a certain course. And the line, believe it or not, went all the way around the inside of the building. It was a building was set up so it was a circular type on the inside. So it went all the way around the inside of the building and then out the front doors of the building and into the parking lot. And I think I waited 4 hours in that line. The class was worth it.
Oh my God, Raven.
I've literally just seen Raven's comment.
Yeah, 42 says she doesn't do lines, but this morning she literally said she was addicted to Coke.
I like Coca-Cola.
But, yeah,
Oh God.
The brown Coke. Sorry.
The line I hate the most. The line I hate the most is whenever you go to the freaking pharmacy, and there's literally like 20 people in line, and you're like, ugh. And you know if you leave, it's only gonna get longer. It never gets shorter.
Yeah.
It just gets longer.
when you go to the pharmacy and you're really sick, you're waiting for what the doctor just prescribed you. That's got to be the worst one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because everybody's looking at you like, why are you here in public?
Yeah, please go in the private. Like, 'cause I need this. I need this so I can get better.
Yeah. I don't want to be sick anymore. That's why I'm here.
Okay, we need to end it here because we're at 42 playbacks. Everything's done.
Okay.
We're good. We're done. Sorry.
Oh, make sure everybody likes the stream. Make sure you share it out. If only for people to rewatch, because yeah, people come and rewatch these. Raven gets books on me when I rewatch his streams. Just ask him.
That's the thing. Like, there's people like Mia who love streams, like watching live streams after they're done, and then there's people like me who literally does not watch live streams after they're done. because I come for the like I like to be able to live chat and make my jokes, while it's actually happening, because then I can't make
Right.
all my funny comments.
Yeah, so you're there for the interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm there for the
Yeah.
interaction too, but when I miss them, I have to see them somehow.
Yeah.
I
That
can't.
makes
I
sense, yeah.
can't. It just I can't. Like if I'm listening to YouTube and it's not not a live stream, it's stories.
And see,
But-
the bad thing is Raven and Sabian do theirs on Sunday mornings, and it's one right after the other, and usually I'm still asleep.
I only get to catch Raven's live stream because I work in the Sunday morning, so I wake up like a half an hour after he starts it, and I usually like say good morning, and then I drive to it, like listening to it, and then I get to work and I actually start to interact. But
I love the interaction. But
yeah, same here.
I can't always be there.
But
And
since
that's my problem.
we're ending it, once you join the collective, you will leave nevermore. I like saying it in the spooky voice.
Thank you, Ray, so much for being with us today.
No,
Thank you, Jelly Bean, for letting us borrow him.
I just want to thank all you guys for having me. It's been an absolute blast, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for being here, dude. It was a blast. I
Yes.
would love to have you on again.
I'd
Yes.
love to be back again.
And I would also, one of these days I will do one of your stories, because I just want to be honored to be able to do that.
Yeah, and Jellybean, you're amazing. We love you. Yeah, he's
Looking
a keeper.
forward to seeing
He's
you.
a keeper, I suppose.
Jelly Bean, I hope that you will let us know when your channel goes on, because we want to know.
She'll definitely let you know.
But just now, Ray, the more shit I give you, the more I like you. So
Yeah, it's true. He never stops.
I'll remember that.
Alright. Thank you everyone for joining us, and have a good evening.
yes, you
Have a
guys
good
stay
evening, everyone.
safe.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Be safe, everybody.
Love you guys.
In my way, but don't try to contain me, 'cause I'm still running wild. 'Cause I'm in a place and you're driving me crazy. Please can you stay, even just for the night? I'm losing my way, but don't try to contain me, 'cause I'm still running wild.